Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Matteo311 and today we're going to be talking about Half-Life Alyx and its potential on the VR industry. Now obviously this is already a big deal because Half-Life is a beloved series that has not had a new release in 12 years, so everyone thought it was just gone. This is also even more than yay, Valve is making games again. Now in this video, I'm going to break down all the reasons why this title may be a game changer. Topics of discussion will be listed in the description if you want to jump around, and if you find any of this information useful or entertaining, why not go ahead, give me a thumbs up, and leave your comments. Alright, let's get into this. The first topic of discussion is Valve and VR. Now, we obviously know that Valve wants VR to succeed. They've been working on VR for years now. They were involved with Oculus before it was even owned by Facebook. And they truly know what good VR is, which is evident in the creation of the Index. I've personally owned 6 HMDs, and that includes a Vive, Vive Pro, Cosmos, Rift S, Quest, and an Index. And I will tell you, in my humble opinion, the Index is the best VR experience I have had to date. There's nothing that really compares to the Index in both fidelity and comfort, but I'm digressing a bit here. This is not solely a Valve Index video. Now we know Valve is working closely with game development studios that focus in VR, and that's Stress Level Zero and Cloudhead Games. And this turns out to be a mutual relationship. Both organizations learn from one another. And it's evident that Valve definitely has their fingers on the pulse of VR, unlike some other major game studios out there. Many of the traditional game development methods just don't work in VR, and Valve has been at the forefront of that experience, testing what works and doesn't work for years now. This actually moves us right into the next topic of discussion, which is innovation. Now, Valve has never been afraid to innovate. From the creation of the Steam platform all the way to the Valve Index, they've given us some amazing products in both software and hardware. Now, some of these products had varying degrees of success, but overall their track record is really good. I personally love the Steam Link. I have one on every TV in my house. Then again, the Steam controller, it has 2 inches of dust on it right now. So I know people love that controller, it's not for me. Then again though, the Steam platform, we obviously know how successful that is, and they continue to roll out amazing new features like Remote Play Anywhere that you guys can use now. And love it or hate it, the Knuckles are the most advanced controllers. You can argue that they're gimmicky or they haven't been used enough, but I think this is a great opportunity for Valve to show off their hardware. Historically, Half-Life 2 was this amazing innovation of software tech. It introduced physics that we didn't know we were missing. When you first got into that game and saw how barrels interacted when you shot them or pushed them or used the gravity gun, it was mind-blowing. There was nothing quite like it on the market until then. And this level of innovation, I'm hoping, gets carried over into Half-Life Alyx. If they can innovate on a software level, bring us a VR experience we haven't had yet, while also just highlighting their tech to the best of its abilities, we have a win-win here. Now, it's been a very long time since Valve has actually released a successful title. However, with the Half-Life IP, I don't think they're gonna play any games. They're not taking any chances here. They want VR to succeed. They don't want to crap on the legacy that is Half-Life. And they see this as the best vessel to take VR to the next level. Now, one aspect of Half-Life Alyx that you do not see in other AAA title VR games, which isn't really a thing yet, but Oculus is funding some higher end titles like Asgard's Wrath and Stormland, which are both really good games. And these game studios have varying degrees of experience in the VR world, but at the end of the day, they are basically being contracted to make a game. When it comes to Valve, this is their baby, this is their product. There's too much for them to lose to mess it up. Valve is also in a very unique position where they don't have to make games that are successful to stay afloat. the majority of their industry is just Steam sales, which has allowed them to do some pretty crazy things in the past. They can take a chunk of money and say, hey, we're gonna put this to research and development. We'll give that to our hardware team. And Valve actually has a history of working on projects for a long time and kind of scrapping them because it didn't come out the way they liked or they didn't see the future in it. But it leads them down this path of innovation that we really don't see from many other companies. So Half-Life Alyx becomes the poster child for VR and their passion project. This is an amazing combination because they're not just looking at it as dollar signs. Like, okay, we're spending $100 million on this game and we want to make 500 million. It's not the typical issues plaguing the rest of the industry like Activision and EA, where these companies need to make more and more money and they're just trying to find ways to suck the money out of the players. So in this scenario, Valve just wants to say, hey guys, look, VR is awesome. We made this game to show it off. And we know you missed Half-Life. We know you guys love it. We know you've wanted it for way too long. Here is some amazing new Half-Life. Now, obviously, this all hinges on Valve's ability to deliver. Are they still amazing developers? The original writers from the Half-Life series are not working at Valve anymore. So what will that do to the storyline? Well, Valve has this kind of safety net that they've used in the past called Valve Time. When they don't think something's ready, they just delay it and maybe it disappears for a long time and pops back up when it's ready. Now, the fact that the game is officially getting announced, they think it's ready. If you follow the history of the Half-Life series, you can see the degrees of innovation in the software, and one of the recent technical discussions by a Valve developer went into an excessive amount of detail about getting a door to work properly in VR. And I think this just signifies the level of detail they're willing to go to, or how advanced the Source Engine 2 will be in VR. I think we should be expecting a whole new level of immersion. The historical gameplay of Half-Life actually lends itself to VR really well because unlike other games that rely on cutscenes, which pull you out of the player, Half-Life has never done that. Half-Life has had cutscenes, but they always take place while you are still in first-person perspective. So you'd see this scenario with a series of events going on, either soldiers fighting a creature or a helicopter fight or something that plays out around you. And that is just ideal for VR. The gravity gun itself is also another element that has already been translated to VR. That ability to put your hand out and call something to you is very common in VR, and I think they're just going to take that and crank it up a little bit. And this moves into the final topic, which is gameplay mechanics. Now, Valve has proven they know how to produce a successful gameplay loop, and this is evident in games like Left 4 Dead, or even Dota 2, obviously, these games that you can play forever because just all the mechanics and the combat and all the other systems involved in the game are fun. So even if you're replaying content, you don't care, you enjoy it. This also goes hand in hand with how well these games typically run. The Left 4 Dead series, the Half-Life series, they actually run on lower end machines. They've been able to get great performance out of their Source engine. So hopefully we can see the same thing in Source 2, where we will have a high level of fidelity, but even more important for VR, the game runs amazing. I think there's a reason why their index runs at 120 Hertz or even 144. So I think they're gonna say, hey, higher end machines, we wanna be hitting that all the time. We wanna be hitting the 120 mark for those people who have the 2080s and the 2080 Ti's out there. And for the people who obviously can't afford that, well, we want it to run looking great at a perfect 90, no issues. I think that's gonna be their goal. They obviously know the hardware and software when it comes to VR. Now, the last topic we have to discuss actually jumps back to something I mentioned earlier, that Valve has their fingers on the pulse of VR. They know what's going on, but this transcends just knowing what's going on in the industry. They know what the consumers want, and they're not being rigid about it. Valve used to have this mantra of, in VR, never move the player. They didn't like the idea of using a thumbstick to move around, because for people without VR legs, just experiencing VR for the first time, This can be motion sickness inducing, and if you give someone motion sickness from VR once, they probably will never return. However, in the past 3 years since VR has been released, gamers who have been playing the whole time have moved on from the teleporting around the room to minor room scale to they enjoy using a thumbstick for games like Pavlov and many other titles. Once you've adjusted and you've acclimated to VR, this feels natural and you enjoy playing that way with either smooth turning or snap turning and using your left thumbstick to progress into the game like a traditional flat screen title. So they know this. They changed their index, actually, their index controllers late in the game and added a thumbstick because they knew this was something that a lot of players wanted. They got rid of that trackpad from the wands that a lot of people, myself included, complained about continuously, and they added the thumbstick because they knew that's what everyone wants. So throughout the development of this game, I'm sure they've been making those changes. Now, it's been reported that this game started as a floating hands, teleport only, no body VR game. I cannot confirm that, but it's been reported that's how the game started. However, as the industry changed, they changed with it. They went to full body, full arm tracking, and you have free locomotion, which was not originally an option. This is not something you're gonna see in other studios because their development's gonna be a little bit too rigid. They're gonna have a timetable, they're gonna have money coming in, money going out, they gotta meet certain milestones, and they're not gonna say, well, we started this game 3 years ago, in the last year, it's been much more common to do finger tracking. Well, we don't have time for that. You know, but Valve, on the other hand, is gonna say, well, nope, we want everything. So you can expect the title that has everything we'd expect from a VR game. You can use teleport locomotion, there will be vignetting, there will be all the comfort options you expect, and there will be all the pro or advanced options that you may want if you've been playing VR for a long time. And the final aspect of this video is the fact that Valve wants VR to succeed, and they're not doing anything like index exclusivity. They've stated previously that this is coming to all headsets. Obviously, that is amazing for the industry. We don't want anything that fragments a community that is already really small. So being able to get this game in the hands of as many VR gamers as possible, combined with the fact that you're taking an IP that people love, that may grab some traditional flat screen gamers to go, you know what? I've wanted Half-Life for so long, if I have to go to VR to get it, and then they put on VR for their first time, for their first true PC VR experience, and they get this amazing title, it's gonna sell people on VR, hands down. And that's the amazing potential impact it may have on the industry. Games like Stormland and Asgard's Wrath have really only been exciting VR players. We're like, oh, finally, we're getting a higher quality game. We're getting 30 hours of content. We're getting a major development studio jumping into VR, and they're not, you know, just dipping their toe in it like Wolfenstein Cyberpilot. They're going for a full-fledged game. That's been great, but that's just a taste compared to what Half-Life Alyx can be. There's very few people outside the VR community that will talk about Stormland. You might be an Xbox console fan, but at the same time, you're familiar with Uncharted and God of War. You might be like, oh, I'm sad I can't play them because I don't have that console, but you're familiar with them. The same cannot be said about Asgard's Wrath and Stormland. You know, if you're a console gamer, you probably never heard of those titles, but you did hear about Half-Life. And now you're like, oh my God, I need my Half-Life. I can't get it. I can't get it unless I get a headset. Boom. And it's gonna sell headsets. And the people who really can't afford a $1,000 index are gonna grab a Rift S. And the more VR gamers we have, the better. I only see bright things in the future. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what to do. It's thumbs up time. Leave your comments below. If you like these topics, you should be subscribing. Maybe ding in the bell so you don't miss any videos. I'm uploading almost every other day. I'm doing reviews, I'm doing news, and I'm doing discussion topics like this. I hope you guys enjoy it. I will see you on next time.